I remember back in my day, we used to run from tornadoes and pick up hitchhiking goats. Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. Welcome back. Today we've got an awesome interview. You're gonna love it. Actually, super fun, especially for those who are missionaries or world travelers or dream of seeing the world and serving the Lord and all that kind of stuff. We also talk a little bit about cults and family members and things like that, and also kind of the strange sort of phenomenon that happens in America, assuming you're Christian but not really knowing what that means. Also, I've discovered where my next vacation is going to be. We talk about, where we're going to, charter a cruise ship and get all of the Joyspiracy Theory listeners on a cruise ship and cruising around, touring Eastern Europe. So you keep an eye out for that. There's no plans for that now, but if that's something people want to do, that would be crazy, but I am down. Okay, let me see here. Yep. I think that's about it. Not a whole lot of information on this one. I'm currently recording the next Ask Baz episode for the Patreon supporters. So thank you, Patreon supporters, especially those of you who stick around when there's no episodes coming out. That's totally huge and unnecessary, and I'm just thank you so much, and I have no words. But here I am, posting another episode here, and I've got another one in the can, so keep an eye out for that one. And by the way, for those who need to cancel their Patreons, that's okay. I have, people email me, they're very sorry. Financial situation's changed. That's all good, bro. It's all good, everybody. You do what you gotta do. But let's see here. Let me go to, oh man, doing this on the fly. This is fun. I believe we have some new pledges by Brian, Dennis. Yep, those two. I believe those two. Thanks, Brian and Dennis. Okay, everybody, here we go. This is an episode with Gretchen. It's going to be fun. All right, strap on your adventure boots and start the plane. Start the plane. That's an Indiana Jones reference for anybody out there who likes that. Okay, here we go. Let's jump into it, everybody. Woohoo!
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Is this Gretchen?
It is Gretchen.
Okay, good. I'm very impressed with myself. This is probably the most on-time interview I've ever started.
Wow, that's great.
Only 16 minutes late.
That's true. You can keep up the trend.
Oh, man, how productive would I be if I could start things on time? That'd be crazy. How you doing today, Gretchen? What are you grateful for?
I'm great. And I'm grateful
Nice one.
for seasons.
Ooh, look at
'Cause
you.
I felt like God just took me through a winter season, and it was His plan, and I feel like it's great when spring comes. So grateful for spring.
Okay, so I was going to say, getting a little abstract, talking about the seasons. But I'm sensing a more spiritually truthful sentiment here that you're grateful for, huh?
Yes. It all goes together.
Oh, I feel like you've written an outline. Should I be afraid?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I just knew that I needed to know something. And
You
I was
did.
grateful.
That was
Yes.
good. I appreciate you being prepared. I'm going to write this down. Grateful for seasons. That's going to pay attention, everybody. Follow the clues. Well, that's great. Where in the world are you?
I'm in the Midwest.
I love my Midwest people.
Hmm. We're having tornado threats from time to time, but
Ooh.
everything pretty much has been okay so far this season.
That's got to at least keep it exciting.
It does. I
Well,
think probably out here we watch the weather more than any other place in the U.S. But
that's so funny. I almost never even think about looking at the weather.
yeah,
Yeah, wow. I'm seeing some deep differences based on our geographical location. The biggest of which so far is tornadoes. Now, look, I don't need to do a whole episode about tornadoes, but I will if I have to.
okay.
I've never seen a tornado. I've never once had to worry about a tornado. Tornadoes are sort of a mythological thing that I'm not even sure exists. NASA could be lying to me. I don't know if tornadoes are real.
That's true. They're popular in The Wizard of Oz, but other than that, who knows?
Yeah, and Twister.
Yes,
That was the more exciting Wizard of Oz.
yes.
Okay. So just real quick, we've got a lot of important things to talk about, but before we get into that, have you ever seen a real tornado?
I have never seen one,
Ooh.
but I was in another state. I was in Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a girl. I was with a girl from New York, and we were watching the weather outside this bay window, and I kept going, I think there might be tornadoes somewhere coming. And she was like, no, no, it's fine. And I really wanted to go in the basement, but I listened to her. Then we go outside.
Your
and
Midwestern senses were tingling.
Yes, and all these trees had fallen. So I was in a completely another state when I was in a tornado, but I had no idea. And thankfully, I survived.
Wait,
So
what?
there are just so many different extremes. 3 little tornadoes went to the area where I was, but they didn't hit any houses.
Oh, they were just little babies and just took down some trees?
Right.
Oh, wow.
And then in like Moore, Oklahoma, that's been hit multiple times. It can hit a whole, street, and then it jumps and it hits somewhere else. So it's very unpredictable.
Yeah,
So,
that's spooky, man. I asked the wrong question asking if you had seen one. You had been in one or been around them and didn't even
pretty
know it.
much it's better if people hide rather than see them. But I know I've met a few storm chasers and they like chasing them. So
Yeah. Well, again, one of my only touchstones for tornadoes is Twister. I can't remember a thing about that movie. I was way too young. Probably shouldn't have been watching it. All I remember is...
Unfortunately, the thing they developed to figure out tornadoes, that really doesn't exist. Otherwise,
No
it's
way.
pretty
It seemed like a pretty good idea.
It did, but scientifically, I don't think there's a way to do that. But I don't
Wow.
know.
Okay. Well, the only thing I remember from that movie is the scene of the little thingy. What is it called? Dorothy releasing all of its little thingies into the tornado, and then him just tying himself to a pipe with a belt. Those are literally the only 2 scenes I remember
You
in the
don't
movie.
remember the flying cow?
Oh, and the flying cow, of course. That is, of course, just, yeah, again, mythologically ingrained into my brain. Okay, well, that's very exciting, I gotta say. It's exciting for me to talk to somebody who, is as brave and courageous as you, as to live in a place that constantly wants to pick you up and throw you very, very far. Okay, so you didn't give a state for where you live. I'm not asking, but if you're telling, I'm listening.
Okay. It's where it's got its own musical.
Are you going to put me through trivia right now?
Almost, I've met people all over the world. Who, whenever I say the name of my state, they break out in song.
They go, oh, Oklahoma.
Exactly.
Yeah. Again, the only word of that song that I know. Okay, Oklahoma, very cool. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've ever talked to anybody from Oklahoma before. This might be a first. Very exciting. And no wonder all these tornadoes.
Exactly.
Okay, Gretchen. Now, you, again, as is the story with many people who come on the show, you sent me an email a long, long time ago. And at the time, you mentioned you were just on a 10 fast. I'm assuming you meant 10-day fast.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Do you remember how... Oh, this wasn't that long ago. Okay, I'm looking at the dates now. We did pretty good.
Good.
At least this particular email, it only took almost a month to the day. Wow. Okay. So I am really giving you guys a peek behind the curtain here, as I'm wont to do. Okay, 10-day fast. Obviously, you know my affinity for unrealistic health expectations being put on myself with the whole 30, enjoying punishing myself for months at a time. Are you the same way? Is that why you're doing the 10-day fast or what?
Well, it was really spurred on by a book called The Maker's Diet.
Ooh,
And
sounds
I can't
Jesus-y.
think of the author's name. Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty much like the Daniel fast.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
what's recorded in the Bible is Daniel actually asked for 10 days for them to eat just vegetables and grains. And then after the 10 days for their overseer to decide if they're healthier and could keep eating that way.
So knowledgeable, so biblically
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
'Cause
Very
I know
impressive.
like people do like a 21-day Daniel fast and everything. But for me, I thought 10 days is doable. And it was a very interesting, and it's not like giving up, you're not, I just
Not
ate
eating.
vegetables. Right. So lots of vegetables, fruits, and the thing I didn't do well was drinking more water.
Yep.
And I realized that was my downfall.
You
'cause
gotta
I
do
got
it.
really tired and sort of achy at times. So
Imagine there was a magical potion that made your entire body work better. That's water. That's what I always have to tell myself.
exactly. But I guess I was so used to drinking when I'm thirsty,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't feel thirsty at all.
I know. That's your big boo-boo right there.
Yep. I needed carry around a gallon with me and finish it.
Okay, so tell me about, I just had to ask about that straight up. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. We'll continue later about that. So tell me a little bit about Oklahoma growing up. Have you been an Oklahoma girl forever? What's your deal?
Well, I was born in upstate New York. And then when my parents got divorced, my mom's family is from Oklahoma. So we moved down here. So I pretty much grew up here. But everybody, when they hear me talk, they're like, yeah, you don't sound like an Oklahoman. So no one can place my accent. So
I was going to say, I try not to judge based on accent. I don't consider myself very good at accents or identifying them. I'm much more apt at identifying if men I'm talking to have beards than if...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you the secret. It's because I can hear it scratching on their microphone. But don't tell anybody.
Oh, okay.
That's super secret. Okay. All right. So upstate New York, very different from Oklahoma, I'm guessing.
Yes, they have winter and snow.
Yeah, that's like severe up there, isn't it?
Yeah, but people are used to it. That's what's so funny. Here in Oklahoma, you get the threat of snow, then everything shuts down. So.
Yeah, well, so you're a hardened New Yorker who is able to survive the harsh winters of Oklahoma.
Yes, it was much easier, I would say.
Okay, good. So a childhood in the cold, desolate New York North. I'm very sorry to hear about your parents breaking up, but were you guys a church-going family? What was the deal there?
We weren't actually. I always assumed we were Christian. So that was an interesting thing about growing up in Oklahoma.
You assumed you were Christian.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I had grandparents and I'd go to church with grandparents. And I'd always ask my mom about going to church, but she didn't drive. And so it was sort of like we didn't have a way to get there type of thing.
Okay.
So I just sort of grew up with a lot of Christian friends, which I just realized was God's protection because I was one of those kids who loved fantasy, and if I knew anyone who was involved in the occult, I probably would have gotten involved in it.
Oh no! Ain't that the story though?
Yeah. I mean, I was interested in all that stuff, but I didn't know anybody doing any of it, which was good.
Yeah. But you
So,
were around Christian people being in the Midwest.
mhm.
It's a nice,
And I just
comfortable
I was
place for that.
Christian because I pretty much tried to believe in everything. So I just assumed, since I believed in Jesus, I was Christian too.
Okay. You believed in
So,
Jesus. So you did believe in
mhm,
Jesus. It wasn't just I suppose this is just what living in Oklahoma is. You actually did
mhm.
have some sort of knowledge of Jesus.
Yeah, but it was pretty much the baby Jesus. I didn't really,
The
I don't think I
cutest
really knew.
Jesus.
Exactly. I knew about why Christmas wasn't just Santa Claus, is what I knew.
Yeah. Well, you can pretty much get a lot of theology from watching Christmas specials on PBS.
Yeah.
Or what's the word? TBS. They always play a lot of the Christmas stuff. The Rudolphs, the ABC 24 Hours of Christmas special.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Now, but your family, your mother, not so much, or was she more just blending into the culture there? What do you think?
I think it was, well, what really happened, the reason my parents got divorced is my dad got involved in a cult.
Oh,
So I think what happened is, my dad got involved in that. My mom went the other direction. So she had grown up with a Christian faith, but I
yeah.
think she pretty much lost it after that.
Okay. So he got involved in a cult. This is very interesting.
Mhm.
This is very interesting. I'm going to ask about cults.
Yes. And
T-
I'm not going to tell which one specifically just because I don't think there's any way to get back to them, but I still have a relationship with them.
oh,
So
okay. You don't want to get
I think
caught
I don't want to say which
giving away the
specific one it is.
secrets.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll remember that.
But I think that's why, yeah. So, but why I tried to believe in everything because my family was so vague in what they believed. Because my dad was part of something where you just didn't share. He just didn't share
That's
what he believed exactly.
That's very
So,
interesting. And look, I have not been married. I have not had children yet. I have not raised a family. But I imagine when you're trying to accomplish those goals, one person joining a cult makes it very difficult, as is obvious
hmm
by the situation. How does that even happen, though? Was he
that
just walking down the street and somebody came up and said, "Have you heard the good news?" Oh, you mean about
exactly.
Jesus? No, about whatever. Satan, I guess.
Exactly. And it was in the 70s when he got involved in it. And
That
I
was a
would
very
say,
good time for cults.
exactly. I mean, people were disheartened with whatever. I don't know. Like, I own my grandparents, and then it's like, it was, at least in their circles, I don't know that any of them really experienced God. It was just that the culture was this Christian culture,
Got it.
at least in the Midwest where they were and everything. So it's just interesting because I don't know when I talk to like aunts and uncles after I became a Christian and stuff, it's just like everybody was very nominal, and it's like we're very like if you're good enough, that's all that matters type of thing.
Yeah, so it seems, a little bit cultural. I don't mean this in a pejorative sense, but a little bit wishy-washy on the Christian influence side. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
usually when somebody gets involved with a cult, it's very strongly. It's kind of hard to be wishy-washy when it comes to cults.
Right, right. You're either in all the way or yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting. My stepmom and my brother, they accept what he does, but they don't want to do it themselves. So it's not one that they have to get everybody to join and everybody else is completely wrong. It's one where they're more enlightened and you can have the opportunity to be more enlightened too, or too bad.
Okay, so there's
So
no I don't know,
there is
blood
coercion, but it's
involved.
like, right, not well, not that I know of. And I would say my dad is one who has been very what is it? Just, you know, all the stories that are said about this cult, I don't believe he's aware of the reality of it. You know, he's just one of these members who follows.
An entry level
And
kind of
doesn't know
follower.
higher. Well, technically, he's gone through everything you can go through, but
Oh,
he's not, you know, he's not in contact with the top people who are making everything run.
got it.
So,
Got it. Okay.
but
All right. Well, see, so the reason I ask and the reason I find this is so fascinating
hmm
is because you had two influences. You had your mother and that side of the family, which was a little, you know, culturally Christian, but not a whole lot of influence or involvement. And then you had the other side, your father, who seemed to be pretty deep into what he
hmm
was going into. I feel like a lot of times, and again, I'm no psychoanalyst, but it seems like the stronger, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. The stronger influence would be the person who takes their beliefs a little bit more seriously. But I suppose you just
hmm
had more or less a distant contact with your father after the separation.
yeah. Well, I actually see him every summer and every other Christmas, but I think because the cult, the reason they separated, my dad didn't really address what he was doing with me very often.
Oh,
You know, because my mom was so against it type of thing.
yeah. Okay. So it would have caused
So
an issue.
yeah, yeah. So, but if I was actually curious, you know, I was like, it was about, you know, teenager and stuff. I was curious about it because, you know, it's my dad. It's like, you know, what are these things he believes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I did learn a little bit, but then I didn't know what to think about it. But then I'd come back to Oklahoma, and I had a neighborhood friend who invited me to Bible study starting in seventh grade, and little by little I started to realize, well, maybe there's something different about Christianity than everything else. So, and actually, our Bible study leader took us to a trip to Dallas to go to the Hard Rock Cafe.
Uh-huh.
You know, isn't that the perfect
Yeah, that's
teenager Bible study trip? But then she took us back to the hotel and she started talking about the influence of music and different cults some of these musicians were in and what they were following and stuff like that. And that was the first time, like, and hearing all that, I just, you know, spoke out what my dad was involved in. And
ooh.
I would say everybody's jaw dropped because I was one of those people who hardly said anything. And so, you know, they thought I was just some little, you know, in a Christian bubble like the rest of them. And then all of a sudden they realized, whoa, what's been going on with Gretchen that we knew nothing about?
You
And to
suddenly
me, it
became
wasn't,
very interesting.
yeah. And to me, you know, it was my world, so it didn't seem weird. And then I realized every time I mentioned something like that, people are like, whoa, because so many people haven't been exposed to something like that.
Yeah, that's
So that
very
opened my eyes to, wow, maybe there is something not quite right about what he's pursuing.
yeah, that's really interesting. And it's interesting how it took a trip to the Hard Rock
I
Cafe.
know. See, God can use anything.
Whatever situation you're in,
Exactly. He can speak to it.
the Lord meets you where you're at. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so then, so you started getting involved in this youth group. I mean, hey,
Mm-hmm.
youth group was a good experience for me when I was a kid. I very much enjoyed that. It was a big influence at the time, a nice source of friends who were
Mm-hmm.
relatively good influences, at least as far as my parents were concerned. Did you get that sort
Yeah.
of classic youth group upbringing? Was that a constant in your life, or was that a short term thing?
Yeah. Pretty much in junior high is when I started going to this Bible study. And then
Hmm.
it wasn't until my junior year of high school that another friend invited me to her youth group. And then it turns out all the girls that were involved in this Bible study actually went to that youth group too. So it's like I already had all these people I knew in this youth group.
Hey, there you go.
So I would say starting at that point, that's when on a youth group ski trip when I was 16 is when I finally realized, okay, I got to make a choice. And I realized it's either Jesus or everything else like I'd been believing in.
Right.
I couldn't believe in both Jesus and everything else.
And
So
what is the everything else? Was there a legit everything else, or was it just sort of amorphous?
Growing up in the 80s, I don't know. I was influenced by all those popular cartoons. There's the Care Bears, and then there's the, what else?
Did you believe in the Care Bears?
The thing was, I tried to believe in everything. I was thinking anything's possible. So when I look back at my childhood, I was like, I had amazing faith.
Wow. Faith in the Care Bears, man. I love that.
I know. It was based in the wrong thing, but I mean, I tried to believe in everything, and anything was possible. And, I also believe this was God's protection, that I did not encounter anything supernatural during that time in terms of making me go pursue, anything else. So I've been really grateful for that. And I feel like with what my dad was involved in, I know he encounters so much, and that's why he believes in what he believes in and stuff. And so I felt like it was a protection for me that I wasn't seeing or experiencing things. The only thing I have had my whole life is I dream very vivid dreams.
Ooh, that's fun.
I feel like they're all from God though. And so if they weren't, that's one way he talks to me. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So you, you had a point where you decided Jesus was better than the Care Bears. And and the youth group Bible study thing. Okay, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Now I got to ask real quick because I love talking to people from all over the country, all over the world here, and maybe we've already figured this out with the tornado situation. But what is like a quintessential part of growing up in Oklahoma? Because from my point of view, tornadoes, that's the number one. Yeah, everybody just spends all of their time running away from tornadoes.
Seasons for tornadoes too. So spring is the most common. Sometimes in the fall they can happen. So it's when the weather's changing from warm to cold or vice versa. Yeah. But I don't know. I was trying to think, if you're talking from someone from small town Oklahoma, I grew up in the city. So small town Oklahoma is a totally different story. But for me, I don't know. I would say, especially in the 80s, 90s. So it was stereotypical Bible Belt. So just a lot of that moral standard. And that idea that most people would have said at that time that they were Christian, regardless or not if they went to church or they did anything relationship-wise with Jesus. So
got it. Okay. Yeah.
So I'd say that was the big influence. Like everybody was just Christian. For the most part. The circles I'm in and stuff. And
sure. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I mean, that was very different from growing up on the West Coast, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm sure. Mm-hmm.
Being a Christian, there was a lot more persecution, whether it was real or just perceived. It's felt like a minority now. I don't actually know the numbers on that, but that's very interesting. So you felt right at home with the I mean that's part of what made Oklahoma so welcoming, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. Now, what was it like growing up with your mom? And you said you had moved to meet up with family over there in Oklahoma. I mean, was that a smooth transition?
Yeah. Well, I was 3.5 at the time.
Okay.
So,
easy transitions.
Yeah. You just go with the flow at that age. And for me, I didn't realize, I don't think until I was maybe 12 or 13 that it was weird that my parents were divorced, different things like that. It just was my norm. And then,
Oh,
when you get older and in middle school, you start sort of comparing yourself to others, and then you realize what you have or what you don't have. And so,
yeah. Did that cause any tension, sort of in the Midwestern Christian dominated
not,
arena over there?
not too much. I mean, just my circle of friends, they all had their parents still together and everything, but there were definitely, I would say there was still a high number of parents who were divorced and stuff. So that's why I didn't really think it was odd, but I didn't realize what I was missing until I started getting into middle school and getting to know my friends' parents and stuff like that. So
Got it. Give me one of your most fond memories of being a child in Oklahoma.
most fond memory?
Yeah. Give me some good.
Hmm.
No pressure.
Well, I remember my grandma, she lived in Minko, Oklahoma. So about a 45-minute drive from the city.
Also an awesome name for a town.
Mm-hmm. And on the way back to the city one time, there was, so this is the 80s, and it wasn't odd to see hitchhikers or pick up hitchhikers during that time.
Mm-hmm.
If they look, depending on who you are and what they look like. So there was this mom and her daughter, and they had a goat with them walking along the highway.
Nice.
And we actually stuffed them all into the car because they were just going up to the next exit where a gas station was or anything.
And the goat?
And the goat, yes.
Inside of the car, or were you?
Inside of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just a little 4-door sedan. Too,
That is so funny. That's like the coolest thing. If I was a young kid and riding in a car with a goat, did it wear a seatbelt? Do you remember?
No, I don't think it was a very big one. So
just a little baby goat.
Yeah, and then it's just yeah, and it didn't seem odd at all for us to do that. And it's like I think of that now, and I sometimes see people walk, or even people with kids, and it's just like, gosh, it's so different now. People are so afraid to help in that situation.
I remember back in my day, we used to run from tornadoes and pick up hitchhiking goats.
Yep. And my day's not that long ago either, so.
Okay.
I don't think it is.
I did not mean to assume.
No. I know you don't, but it's just like, it's funny when you're getting older, but then you know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're looking at the grand span of time.
Yeah.
The days go by slow, but the years go by fast.
I was in my 20s and I looked at someone in their 40s. I thought, wow, yeah, they're back in their day. And then now that I'm in my 40s, that day isn't that long ago.
40's the new 20s or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. So that's interesting. So where did life take you from there? You're in Oklahoma now. Mm-hmm. You were in Oklahoma then.
I haven't always been in Oklahoma.
But you haven't always been in Oklahoma. Sometimes those tornadoes get you and they throw you around. Tell me a little bit about what happened after all the youth group and all the Bible studies.
Yeah, so I went to university, but I stayed in Oklahoma. But one thing that stood out to me when I was in college was I went to the Baptist Student Union, and every so often a missionary would come through and share about whatever they were doing. And I really had no interest in being a missionary. I had always wanted to be a teacher, though. I was going to teach no matter what. And one thing that they kept saying was, if you have any interest in being a missionary, do something right when you finish college. Otherwise, you might never get to it.
Do something as in do some missionary work?
Yeah, do something right after college. Otherwise, you might get settled in and never make it overseas.
Yeah, okay.
And I had I could think of at least 10 people I knew that they thought and desired and wanted to go into missions. And out of those 10, I would say at least 6 of them never made it overseas.
Oh, wow.
Um, but in that time, I got done with my teaching degree. And, then it comes, do you look for a job or what do you do? And there was an opportunity to go to, there was a family with 7 children living in Estonia that my church supported. And they needed someone to come out and help teach, homeschool their kids.
Ooh.
And I was, at that time, I'm like 21 and I'm like, I can go anywhere and do anything for a year. So I hopped on a plane, went to Estonia, remembered what it was like to be cold in the winters. It's very cold there in the winter. And I loved it because it was the first time I lived and got to see what a Christian family was like.
Interesting.
And they had ups and downs, but I loved it. And they had kids, 7 kids, 12 to newborn. And
that's such a fascinating concept. I mean, you grew up in Oklahoma in a Christian culture and became a missionary, and you had to go all the way to Estonia to truly feel like you knew what it was like to be in a Christian family.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that says a lot. That is a very interesting
it's
commentary.
Different. Yeah, it's just different when you're actually, I had my own little room, but I pretty much did everything with a family. So to see the day in and day out and the disciplining and but the loving that goes with it, and just, So I ended up going for 3 months, and then I missed it so much, I went back for a whole nother school year. So.
You love Estonia.
Yeah, well, I love the family. I'm still in contact with the family, and they're not in Estonia anymore. But
really? That's a long time to stay in contact. Good job.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, again, where is Estonia? Where is this?
It is one of the Baltic countries. So if you find Finland on a map, it's in those 3 little countries under Finland on the mainland.
Is that like
right next to Russia?
Ukraine area?
No.
Oh,
it's
man.
called the Baltics. So you find Finland, Norway, and there's the Baltic Sea, and then you've got 3 little countries: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania.
Okay.
All on top of each other.
Not a lot of PR coming out of those countries.
No, but Estonia has made the news. It's one of the head, countries for technology and development. And I think you guys mentioned once on a Canary Cry radio that they're at the top of trying out the no currency thing.
Yeah, it was either on a Canary Cry radio or Canary Cry News Talk. I do remember something about that. They're doing some interesting stuff over there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I revealed my ignorance of where Estonia actually is in that episode as well.
Oh, okay.
I need to spend a lot of time with a map. That needs to be a focus.
They're small countries too, so.
How small are we talking here?
Oh, I think there was only 1.5 million in the country at the time I was there.
That's like
but land area wise, I don't know. It's might be a little bigger than Maryland or something like that.
1.5 people is like a small U.S. city. Well, I guess maybe not small.
I might be saying that wrong.
Mid-range U.S. city. I mean, I believe it. If it's a small, because there's small countries all over the place.
Yeah, I might be wrong on that population. But back in 2000s, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating. So that's a huge kind of culture shock. I think the whole thing was a culture shock. What was your favorite thing about Estonia?
It was beautiful there, I thought.
Tell me about it, because I'm just imagining a whole country just made of one big rock.
No, it is a forest, predominantly forest, but it's flat, so they don't really have mountains. They are very nature oriented, so they have a lot of wonderful outdoor areas and stuff.
Oh,
And
that's
under
nice.
communism, because they were under communism until 89 and or 91 really, I think it was, or 89. Um, and their front they weren't allowed to have they made their whole yards into gardens because that's how they got enough food to eat and stuff too. So even while I was there, some people still had their front yard. Instead of having a yard, it was a vegetable garden.
I'm assuming you had to show up after communism.
Yes, so
Okay.
2000 was when I
Ah,
was there.
got it. 2000.
So
Man, time flies. That's crazy.
I know. See,
Well, that's fun. They're on top of the gardening jive. I don't know if you've heard, but I'm quite the gardener now as well.
oh,
I don't want to
fun.
brag or anything, but I put some beans from my kitchen into some Ziploc bags, and they sprouted pretty good.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to post some updates about those suckers on the Patreon because I know that's what people are interested in. My beans that I'm growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, Estonia doesn't sound so bad. I gotta say, they could probably use a rebranding on the name, so I don't think it's just a big rock over there, but it sounds
Yeah.
pretty nice.
When I went, the thing people always thought of, because I mean it was, however many years after this movie came out, but Encino Man. Did you ever see that movie?
Uh, is that the one with Brendan Fraser?
Yes, as
And
the
he as the
caveman.
caveman? Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, do I
And
remember
they
that
enrolled
movie?
him in school and said he was from Estonia.
Oh man, you just got all the references. This whole episode is kind of a sleeper episode of just a bunch of hidden references. Again, like I
Uh-huh.
said at the beginning, follow the clues, people.
That's true. Yeah.
We're gonna get some crazy conspiracies about tornadoes in Estonia and Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, that's true.
Wasn't he in a tornado movie? Okay. Anyways, moving on. Wow. Well, that's a big change. That's a big kind of life move. Now,
Yeah. Then I came back to the States, lived in Kentucky a year, and then I had the itch to go back overseas, and I got invited to go to Albania.
oh,
And
but
so I spent 11 years in Albania.
11 years, like on and
Yes.
off, or like
No, straight,
primarily.
straight.
Oh my
I loved it
gosh.
so much. I knew after 2 weeks that I wanted to, I thought for life, but of course, God let me in just maybe 6 months before I moved back to the States that it was time to move, which I appreciated.
Well,
Just in
that's
that,
good.
because it would have been traumatic to me. I'm like, I can't leave Albania if you had told me sooner. But it was
Well,
perfect timing when he did.
like we mentioned before, the Lord can meet you wherever you're at. The Hard Rock Cafe,
Absolutely.
Albania. He truly
Hmm.
is omnipresent. Now, I think you know the question that's coming next, but where's Albania?
Uh-huh. If you look at the boot of Italy,
Ah, I do
and
know that one.
there's the little heel
Yeah,
of the boot. You just follow it across the water, and there's Albania. So it's right north of Greece.
north of Greece. Okay, I
Uh-huh.
know where Greece is. I got this. I got this. What's up, Albania?
It's also another small country. It's about 3.5 million people.
Wow. Okay,
So,
so all right, tell me about Albania. Were you teaching some other little children?
uh-huh.
Were you like
So yeah,
Sound of Music style?
no, no, it wasn't one family this time. They had actually, I think Albania was also under communism, but it was its own form of communism. And it didn't open. It was the only country to ever officially declare itself atheist
Whoa.
under while they were under communism. So the country didn't open until 91. And after some of the first missionaries went there, they started a missionary school there in the capital city of Tirana. So I didn't go until 2002. And so they had a whole K through 8 school up and running. And so I taught at the school with 7th and 8th graders. And then I ended up staying because they didn't have a high school. So I helped I worked with some families and helped develop a high school there.
So your teaching degree really put you to work.
It did, because I've taught everything except math. Because you don't always get all the teachers you need at a missionary school. So people fill in. So I loved it, though. I love teaching. I love every subject. I even love math. It would just be
man.
for me to teach.
I was going to say you lucked out. You lucked out pretty good.
We
not having to
thankfully
teach.
had enough people who could teach math come. So
That's Europe for you, I suppose. Wow. Okay. Albania. I'm trying to imagine it in my mind.
it's it's really East meets West. So if you think of Europe and you mix in like Turkey with Europe, that's the feel you get when you're in Albania.
Sounds delicious.
So, and the food.
Wait, what does that mean? I don't know what Turkey is either. And now I'm just thinking about a turkey. So it's like a desert also.
No, not desert. Certain areas of Turkey is Turkey's like they had the Ottoman Empire for 500 years. So you got the Islamic sort of Middle Eastern influence.
Got it.
That came into that eastern area of Europe. So
You're talking culturally here.
Yes, culturally.
Okay. All right. I was back on the Estonia thing with the rocks and the trees.
Oh, okay.
But no, yours is much...
Landscape-wise, Albania is very mountainous. It's also coastal. So in the east is mountains, and the west is coast, and it's beautiful all around. It's one of the top places to visit in Europe, and it's one of the least expensive places to go, especially on like nature trips and stuff.
I am learning so much this episode. You really are a good teacher.
Well, thank you.
Teach me, Gretchen.
You'll want to go. If you Google Albania's beaches, you will want to take a vacation there soon.
Albania speeches?
Beaches.
Beaches.
Yeah.
Albania's beaches. Okay. I will do that. I will. You know what? I'm going to do it right now on the air. Here we go. While I'm looking this up, what was your favorite thing about Albania?
My favorite thing, the people. They are just such a friendly, hospitable group of people. So they're culturally.
And that's coming from an Oklahoma girl, so that means something.
Yeah. So culturally, they're like on record as 70% Muslim, and they love Americans.
Oh, okay. That doesn't happen very often anymore.
I know. When George W. Bush came to visit, he wasn't president at the time. It was afterwards, but like he was on this tour of Europe. Albania was the only country that when he got out anywhere, people like came up to him wanting to touch him and talk to him. Everywhere else, he was like the rest of Europe, he was snubbed.
Shunned, right?
Yeah.
That guy seems to be getting more popular lately. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but George W. has really been getting a lot of positive attention recently.
Yeah, it's interesting what presidents do after their term in office. So.
Do you remember his paintings he came out with?
I don't. When was that?
He started painting for a few years. You got to look it up when you have time, or if you want to do it now. Look up George W. Bush painting. It is a weird look into that guy's post-presidential mind.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
He's a really thoughtful sort of guy. I don't know what's going on with that fella. But okay, all right, Albania loves Americans. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to use that Slumdog Millionaire style someday. I'm going to know that I can go there and be safe and loved.
That was the other thing I loved about Albania. It was I lived in the capital city, so it's like 1.5 million people in a very small space.
So half the country is living in one city. Yes,
but they all moved in since communism. You know, there's like many countries that struggle to find jobs and stuff. But it's like it's been 5 years since I lived there, so it's definitely been changing more and more. But when I was living there, it was like you would still have these neighborhoods of people who had lived there for generations, and it still had this small town feel and these different pockets and everything right in the middle of the city.
Yeah, I'm looking at now. I'm just gone down this like dark rabbit hole of Albania pictures. This place looks amazing. It's like a fantasy wonderland.
And everything's so inexpensive compared to where you'd pay in other countries. So
I'm going to Albania, I think. I think that's what I'm doing next. You've sold me on Albania. Okay, so again, very interesting. So you've almost spent more, maybe an equal amount of time. Yeah.
Most of my adult life, I've lived overseas.
Out of the country. What is it like coming back to America? I mean, do you did you just get used to it, unremarkable, or was there kind of some getting used to?
Every couple of years, I'd be home for a couple months and everything. So
you never really lost the touch.
Yeah, but I'd always want to go back. But when I finally moved back, I guess, I had only taught for 9 years while I was in Albania. My last 2 years, I sort of got more into prayer ministry and what was happening with the human trafficking there in Albania. So I would say I sort of transitioned while I was still living in the country in terms of what my heart had really connected with was the teaching. And so, they say missionaries come back and or anybody who lives overseas, you move back to your home country and sometimes it's reverse culture shock. But for me, I didn't really experience that. I think it's because I knew I wasn't going to be in Albania again for long. And I just sort of, I don't know, transitioned well, I guess you could say.
Well, that's good. It seems like you've been having a lot of good transitions. Sounds like we've referenced multiple good transitions for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
It doesn't always feel like that in the moment, but when you can reflect on them, it's like, that was actually pretty good.
Well, speaking of which, you started off the episode talking about the changing of seasons. And, I would say from our conversation, you've gotten very good at navigating the changes of seasons. Both spiritually and literally, seeing as how you can just kind of globetrot and be totally fine in the cold or the warm or whatever you're doing. So what does that mean for you? Let me into your beautiful mind.
Okay. So rephrase the question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the question?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
You mentioned that the changing of seasons, and you mentioned that you, at the beginning, coming out of sort of a winter season, which we are literally doing. Right. But I sort of caught the whiff that maybe there was something else going on there, which is also nice. It's nice to hear that my guests are coming into spring in all sorts of ways.
Definitely. So for me, when I moved back from Albania, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing. So it's this big question of, I've been a missionary pretty much for all of my adult life. So do I come back and get a teaching job? Or I was looking at maybe working with a ministry. And then an opportunity came up. The last thing I was doing in Albania was working with human trafficking victims and prayer. And then there's actually a local ministry here that is focused on that. So I jumped into serving with them. What's interesting about them is they have no paid staff, and everybody who joins them serves as a volunteer, and they raise their own support if needed. So all the people and the one church who supported me during my time in Albania, I told them what I was going to be doing in Oklahoma City. Most everybody has continued supporting me since then, which has been a big blessing.
That's fantastic.
So I'm actually still a missionary here in the States now.
You're a lifer.
I am. I mean, I thought I could go back to teaching, but it's interesting how God, once as you get to know God and what his heart's desire is, what you think you love so much. I wouldn't say he takes it away. I would say he expands on it. So what I thought I could do just in teaching kids, it's now like, well, I can also teach adults these things. And it's not just history I want to teach. I want to teach about what God's doing, what he did in the Bible, what he is doing now and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I just love that so much. I feel like in the church, or just, I don't know, I'll stick with the church. I won't even necessarily bring God proper into this, but the church itself that, we've organized around serving Christ, a lot of times there's kind of a very straight path to what we're supposed to be doing. And I'll give credit to the school system and to the government and just to this world in general. We're kind of given this idea that we have some sort of straight path that we have to follow.
Right.
And it's not even necessarily that our path gets crooked because we're bad at following a straight path. I feel like that straight path just doesn't exist. God never even set it up that way.
Yeah. I have a friend shared with me today, it's like trusting that God knows what's around the corner. We're not always, you keep following him, but you won't be able to see what's around the corner until you get there. But he sees it all.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
and then
good.
one of my sayings so basically I stepped out of that ministry in January. So that's when God told me it's a winter season. Because what was interesting is I stepped out of that ministry thinking I was going to jump in to something else right away.
Uh-huh.
And then that didn't develop.
Ah.
And so I asked God about that. And he said, would you have left that other ministry if you didn't think you were going to jump into something else? And I was like, no. And then he didn't say
what,
anything
are you crazy?
else. I know. Then he didn't say anything else. I was like, oh.
Gotcha.
So he had wanted me to step out of that, but it was for a totally different reason than I thought. So that's why I was like, I'm in winter. And it was, literally winter too.
Yeah.
And then I just looked up things about plants. And did you know that plants, their roots do most of their growing in winter?
I did not know that.
And they're absorbing all those nutrients so that they'll be prepared for the spring.
Oh.
So, and there's I can't remember all the stuff I learned, especially about grapevines, and the whole, pruning process and all of that. So God took me on because I kept trying to jump into different things and find out about different ministries, but it's like nothing connected for long term. So it was about 3 months of not knowing for sure what was next. And then what was interesting is winter, at least here in Oklahoma, it snowed in April. So, and I think it hit, most of the U.S. was having weird weather and stuff like that. So I kept feeling like, oh, winter got extended because I still didn't know what I was going to be doing and everything.
Right.
So, and then what was interesting, so that church I grew up in, when I moved back to the States, I'd gone to it for a little while, but, it'd been 11 years and a lot of change.
Crazy.
They had different, not many people I knew were still there. So I'd only gone there for a few years, and then I started going to some other places. Then what's interesting, on the day it snowed, I didn't get to go to the congregation I usually go to. And so I went back to my old church, and a gal who had been one of my youth leaders was preaching that day. Uh-huh. And she was sharing about her mom and dad, they had lived with me in Albania. So I'd served with them there. And then all of a sudden, God was like, he had told me a while ago, the verse, God sets the lonely in families. He kept pointing at the S in families. And then it was all of a sudden everything clicked. Because I'm single, never been married, no one in my family's a believer and stuff like that. So I've always felt just a little on the fringe, not quite connected and everything. And then I look back through my whole life, and it's like, he's really put me in families, plural.
Wow.
So I have recently rejoined my church and jumped into children's and youth ministry. And I don't know what all spring holds, but I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, atta girl. Thanks for looking up, kid.
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting. So you've, again, navigated this transition very well. That's very impressive. I mean, that's a real blessing in life. A lot of times our lives are marked by pretty extreme changes that happen a little bit in an uncomfortable way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to say I'm envious, but that's a very nice blessing that God's given to you as far as that's concerned.
Definitely, yes.
Speaking of super smooth transitions, where in the world in this whole globe-trotting journey that you've been on, where did you have time to even hear about Canary Cry Radio or Canary Cry News Talk?
Yes. So, I guess during my last 2 years in Albania, I just doing YouTube searches. I first came across Chuck Missler and his Learn the Bible in 24 Hours.
Yeah.
And from there, I got into some of his other teachings, and I bought his alien book. I forget what the name of it is. Maybe, yeah. And from there, he kept talking about all these different UFO sightings. And so I was like, well, I want to see some of these things that have been captured on video. Then that's when I came across Age of Deceit. And then,
of course.
Then I think that was 2014, 2015, something like that. So, and then that just led to everything else.
And there you go. Age of Deceit once more, ushering people into the fringe of the fringe.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I've been coming to terms with Age of Deceit recently, and the massive success of my partner in crime, Gon Shimura, and his wonderful movie that is changing the world. But I'm realizing that I wouldn't be able to meet a lot of the people that I meet or talk to the people that I talk to if it wasn't for that movie. So I am officially stating it now. I am a fan of Age of Deceit.
That's great.
There you go. Yep. Go tell it on the mountain, everybody. Well, that's very cool. And it's again kind of how God works. Meets you where you're at, gives you what you need. Age of Deceit. Thank you, Internet. Bring it all the way over to Albania. And what, did you fall into the classic deep dark hole of research and YouTube videos?
No, in that I'm very picky with who to trust. Or what sources.
Sure.
I don't know how to vet them very well. So after seeing Age of Deceit and then starting to listen to Canary Cry Radio, I was like, I can trust these guys.
Hey, there we go.
And then there's been a few things and I'm like, that's really interesting. I want to research a little more. But I mean, the wide range of topics you guys cover, I like learning about it all. I wouldn't say there's one certain area that I'm like, I go after or anything.
Yeah, well, there you go. I can totally relate to that. The wide range of topics covered on the show is definitely indicative of either some sort of ADD malfunction or just a broad interest in everything that has to do with, biblical prophecy and current events. And I mean, there's just so many facets to that diamond. If I would have known back in 2012 the range of things that we would be covering, I wouldn't have believed you. It just keeps expanding. It just keeps getting bigger. It's hard to keep up.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's very exciting. Now, over in Albania, are there lots of people who thought like you? Is the concept of the Illuminati even a thing over there? I mean, I believe I don't know what Europeans even really think about the whole conspiracy thing. But I'm assuming you probably kept it to yourself because
Yeah.
you're already the weird American.
True. But there's a large missionary population in the capital. So I did have, missionary friends, but,
Oh, sure.
all different countries and everything. But I would say, yeah, there was only a few people, while I was there was only a little bit of stuff that I was into at the time. So I
So
could talk about it with a few people, but it wasn't like they were interested in knowing for themselves.
they
much
were
of
they
anything.
were busy doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just depends on your circle. For me, what, especially the alien thing and everything, what drew me into it was just, my dad being involved in a cult. So just
Right.
knowing
Oh,
what's out
yeah.
there and the whole deception and stuff like that and how easy it is.
You're already predisposed to at least
Right.
the concept of, a bunch of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah. And that, and my dad's also a scientist. So the reality of him being this scientific thinker, and at the same time, he has to be having these supernatural spiritual encounters for him to actually believe what he's believing in, is, yeah, just the whole realm of how people can be deceived without Christ is fascinating to me. And it's, how can you speak into that? So.
I know. We got to think of a good name for the study of that, I think. Because it really could. You could spend your whole life studying all the different ways that deception is presented.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I'm grateful when people use the analogy too of not, when you look for the counterfeit, you study the original.
Right.
So just the not taking our eyes off of Christ.
It's very important.
In the midst of it. Because then, yeah.
It's easy to lose sight of the most important stuff in that case.
I know, yeah. So it's like, but it's like I could see it sort of as what even happened to my parents. My dad took hold of a type of religion, and my mom rejected all religion. So the same thing can happen in anything we can do. We can go to one extreme or the other, and we miss out on who God really is in the midst of that.
Yeah.
Even as I feel like so.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
We can put him in a box, or we can be so loosey-goosey that we don't really know who he is.
That you just lose sight of him altogether.
Exactly.
Or he sort of dissolves into the Estonian forest or something.
Possibly, yeah.
What kind of interesting belief systems did you kind of run into over there? I'm kind of under the impression, Christianity looks a little bit different everywhere you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
in Estonia, a lot of countries that were under communism, they did away with religion.
Yeah.
So Estonia is a country that's very, very few people are religious at all. So, and they have like a deeper history of sort of the nature worship side of things. So you could say that new age vibe of nature is what I picked up on as being predominant.
Yeah, that's interesting. On the other hand, I could see how it would leave room for sort of a more authentic engagement with Christianity, not having it so built into the culture.
That's true. Yeah.
I nailed it, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I would say definitely. But they still had, I don't know, it's just interesting to, different missionaries who come into a country, they bring their culture and also their whatever denominational influence was there too. So I was just thinking of some of the people I knew in Estonia, that still influenced them too.
Yeah,
Whereas
it seems like if
they had sent out nationals, like what happens often in more closed countries, the spreading of the gospel is someone learns about Christ, only for a few weeks maybe, and then they take it to their hometown and it spreads like that, then you'd get sort of that more natural God doing whatever needs to be done without
Right.
biases that sometimes can come from our cultures.
Right. It seems like there'd be some sort of Eastern Orthodox influence left over there.
In Estonia, it was actually, I think, Lutheranism, I think.
Oh.
Before communism, they had I guess they had a German influence come into the country. So I think it's predominantly Lutheran.
Oh, very
and
interesting.
In Estonia was where you had Greek Orthodox and Roman Catholicism was both predominant there until the 1400s when the Ottoman Turks, the Turkish Empire, came in. Then you had Islam taking over, and very few people were able to keep their sort of Christian faith and everything. Then you had communism that got rid of everything in Albania, or you died. It was like the way they you got rid of religious people in Albania was worse than what they even did in the Soviet Union.
Oh, wow.
So, but we have stories of some missionaries who encountered a few men who had not even told their families that they were believers because it was that dangerous.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Who had stayed Christians during that time. So.
Holy smokes. I'm loving this church history lesson. I'm telling you, this is so fascinating to me.
It's very interesting. So, I mean, that was what made Albania so interesting too. And there's, one of their port cities is in the Bible. I forget what the verse is, but when Paul says, all these different places he went to, one of them was Illyricum, and that's the ancient name for Albania.
Whoa.
So there's a port. Yeah. So
Albania's in the Bible.
I know. So there's a port city there that was, a hot spot during the Roman times and everything for trade. And there's an amphitheater there. So everyone likes to go there and just imagine if Paul had actually preached there. So
that is pretty cool. I'm serious. I'm like into Albania right now.
Yes.
You might actually convince me to head over to Albania.
Yeah.
I might have to hit you up for some
ticket. Plane ticket's a little pricey, but otherwise it's a great, very affordable place to visit.
How much are we talking? How much are we talking for a plane ticket? I'm going to look it up right now. Let's go on Expedia.
Depending on where you're flying from Oklahoma, it's usually around close to 2,000.
Okay, what city am I flying into Albania here? I'm just going to book a trip right on the Tirana.
That's the capital city. Tirana.
Wow, that is not how I was going to spell it. Thank you. Okay, let's put this trip out a couple months. I got some stuff to do. I don't want to can't leave tomorrow. Here we go. Maybe we should put together a Joyspiracy Theory conference in Albania or a group trip. I don't know. What do you think?
I could lead the tour. I would love to.
Okay, there we go. Oh, yeah, these tickets.
I need to go back there soon. I miss it.
These tickets are pretty pricey. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they can.
Because it's not a hub city. And if you're looking, the touristy season's in the summer too. So if you went in off season, everything's going to be cheaper.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I was looking in July here.
In the country, we stayed at a sort of like a Christian bed and breakfast, $15 a night.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Off season, a room would be like $25 a night.
Yeah.
Something that you would, let's see, a $50 meal here in the States, something similar there would only be like $15.
Okay. I'm liking Albania even more. More and more just keeps getting better.
The food that's probably one of the biggest thing I miss because, living in Oklahoma, all fruits and vegetables are pretty much imported either from California or Mexico.
Right.
And they travel long times. They're picked not ripe. In Albania, everything was just so fresh. It tasted so different. It was delicious.
Okay, good to know. All right, I'm looking at flights in, what is this? November. Gets much cheaper. There you go. There's a little travel tip from Basil, everybody. Don't go to Albania in July. Go in November.
November's the rainy season, though.
Yeah, rain. A little bit of rain never hurt anybody.
Sweet spot is right at the end of the May, first week of June, in terms of prices and good weather.
So you mean like right now?
Before the height of tourist season. Yeah, right around now.
Okay.
So you could have a year to plan.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're gonna really squeeze me for the tickets here. This if I'm gonna be living in 2 weeks, I can't do that. I've got podcasts to make. Okay. Wow, that was a really. I'm sorry. I'm just so into Albania now. I didn't mean to totally derail the show on my.
I think you're gonna like. There'll be some other enthusiasts that will hear this show.
Yeah.
Albania now.
Hey, y'all. If anybody wants to go to Albania, hit me up at basil.rosewater.
It's also a wonderful place to do a mission trip.
Okay,
because the people are so receptive, but I mean, it doesn't mean they're going to believe in Jesus right away or anything like that. But if you just want to they would love having conversations, English conversations. I know people who've set up conversational cafes and there's so many neat ministries there.
Hey, well, that sounds a lot more hospitable than a lot of other places I've tried to minister.
Yeah, one of my neighbors, she was an older couple. They were Muslim. They had 2 daughters. One of their daughters married a Roman Catholic. The other daughter married an Orthodox man. And they just celebrate all the holidays together. So the thing that makes evangelism hard in Albania is, everybody believes, for the most part, in God.
Yeah.
But how the expression of who God is, there's some families who are like, you don't have to be set in a certain way.
Right.
So it can be very nominal, and so very hard for them to understand why Jesus is so different.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it difficult for like South America and stuff as well, with a very strong Catholic presence. A lot of times they don't see much of a difference between Catholicism and Protestantism.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, there you go. Man, this might be the most knowledge-packed episode that we've had. And of course, it's because you're such a good teacher, Gretchen.
Well, thank you.
Is there something that you wanted to talk about or were considering talking about that we didn't get to?
No, it was pretty much, I think, about missionary life. I thought that would be unique and maybe different for the show. So,
well, speaking of which, what do you think? Do you think that's the Lord has you just chilling now, or do you think you're going to be going more places?
Oh, I think I'll definitely be going more places. So I one of the reasons I moved back to the States was to help take care of my mom and stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know I'm supposed to be here in Oklahoma. She's okay. She just shouldn't be on her own for long periods of time or anything.
Yeah, sure.
So I definitely foresee doing some short-term trips.
Okay.
I am going to Israel in a couple weeks for the first time. So
do a little Holy Land tour, baby.
Yes. I'm really excited about that. I'm actually going with a Messianic congregation.
Oh, that's fun.
So I'm excited because they know a lot of people in country and everything. So
yeah, you'll get the hookups there.
Yeah.
Okay. And well, be careful.
I know.
Are you going to visit the new embassy?
Definitely, yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Regardless of what somebody thinks of that politically, it's a interesting historical moment. It's a very profound historical moment that's going to have consequences for, oh my gosh, who knows, 100 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, to go on a trip, what's it going to be? A few weeks after the embassy is established? That's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe we're going to have to put together a little world tour here. Everybody email me and save your pennies, because we've got a lot of places to go.
Have you heard of, I forget which ministry does this. I think it's called The Great Race.
I didn't know that was a ministry. I thought that was a TV show.
It's not, yeah, it might not be The Great Race.
It's a great...
where they have 11 months, and I think within the 11 months, they go to at least 6 different countries. So it's a mission experience, I think, for 20-something-year-olds and stuff.
Hey, I could go feel young again.
I was like, when I heard about that, I was in my 30s, but I was like, wow, if I had known about that, that would have been really neat.
Yeah.
You just see all these different spots in the world within a year type of thing.
Yeah, that's one great thing about Christian culture. And of course, there's a lot of other, especially religious beliefs that sort of, send out missionaries to different countries and things. But specifically compared to secular culture, secular culture nowadays pretty much idolizes travel. I mean, especially with the millennials, my people. I mean, there's this like weird fetish for traveling and how it just makes you a better person, which, there's a lot of great things to be gained by traveling, but it's all in this like weird, I just gotta see the world, man. I just gotta get out of here. And it's
sort of a selfish motive.
If you don't travel, which the majority of us cannot afford to travel as much as like Instagram is telling us we must. I mean, you're kind of, I don't know, you're lesser. You're of a lesser class than those who have seen the world. And but to bring it back around, church culture, Christian culture, and the calling that we have on our lives not only is calling us around the world, but is doing it with a very important purpose. It's not just for Instagram photos. I love it. I'm just preaching to the choir here. I'm trying to teach the teacher, but I know somebody out there is gonna
definitely
think that I'm smart.
You're quite the teacher too.
Oh,
unique way.
Oh, stop.
You're very good at your questions are very, very helpful.
Oh, well.
To all your guests, I believe. It's like, oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. I have a lot of questions.
That's good.
I think maybe that's being a good student. I'm a good student. And thus the teacher learns from the student. I'm the boss now. Ha ha. All right. Well, I
actually had students teach for me. Because I couldn't do everything. I was like, well, you do the science lessons. But I mean, you learn so much more by teaching. So
yeah,
it's really good I had my students teach.
That's very fun.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if United States school districts would allow that as much as Albanian.
That's the other reason I couldn't just go back to teaching. I'm like, it'd be hard for me to conform to a structure.
You don't want to teach American kids. American kids are brats, man. I was a brat up until like 2 years ago.
Yeah. We all carry a little bit of that in us still.
Yeah. Until we don't. But we'll see. We'll see when that starts happening. Well, Gretchen, this has been fantastic. Do I need to call you Miss Gretchen?
No.
I guess I should have asked that at the beginning.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. This is a very laid-back class session that we've had.
Good. I'm glad.
Well, do you feel good? Do you feel fulfilled?
Yes. I was very glad to share everything.
Good. I am so glad that you got to share, too. I mean, this is, you have really led an extraordinary life and one that is not usual in any way. And there's a lot of changing of seasons, a lot of transitions. We've been on quite a journey together, and I just really appreciate you coming on the show. Now, before we leave, though, I need to know what kind of furry friends you got running around.
I have 2 cats
Ah, yeah.
One is a 21-year-old
What?
that I got. Yeah, she's still around and she's doing pretty good. And then about 4 years ago, I got a kitten
Uh-huh.
who likes to traumatize her, but they're pretty good together.
Oh man, that sounds like such an odd couple situation. That's
It
so
is, it
fun.
is. But my younger cat,
Whoa.
he's big.
Hmm.
He for some reason only has half a tail, and
For some reason, I don't like
well,
that.
you adopt them and they don't know.
Okay.
Was he born that
It didn't
way
just
or
disappear one day.
no, yeah. And oh, this is one thing too. When I moved to Albania, I actually took a cat with me
No way.
from Oklahoma. I went all
Okay. All
so
right. Was that the 20 with that what happened? What happened to that
no.
cat? Is it still in
Well,
Albania?
she developed some issue, and so she died while I was still over there. But
Ah, okay. Well, she got to see the world, so that's very nice.
yes,
You
so
didn't adopt any stray dogs or anything in Albania?
no, but I did. I did get some other kittens while I was there, and
I mean,
my
you're there for
landlord.
11 years. You gotta
Yeah,
get some
I
cats.
know. They're my biggest stress relief.
I agree, mine too. Also, kind of the biggest stressor at times.
They can be, especially when they disappear for a day, and it's like, where did they go? Because I let mine in and
Uh,
out. So
oh, you're daring. You're a daring soul.
yes, so
Set a cat free, and if it comes back, it likes the wet food you're giving it.
exactly. Yeah. But I do what my young cat, he has to be on a prescription diet now. And that's the first time I've ever had to do that.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
but
you're
it's
getting
worth
into
it.
real cat mommy mode.
I know. It's a little more expensive, but it's worth it.
Amen,
I took
sister.
him to an emergency room one night. It was that drastic before I knew what
Whoa,
was going on.
a little
So,
cat ambulance situation.
yeah.
Uh,
I didn't know before that there were emergency rooms for pets.
if somebody out there knows this, please let me know. I have no idea how those places stay in business. I mean, I guess
Have
obviously
you
they
ever had to
do.
pay a bill there?
No, I've been very lucky to have very
Well,
healthy cats.
they're not quite as expensive as people, but depending on what you have to have done. If I had taken them to the vet during office hours,
Mm.
oh, I would say it would have cost 1/8 of what I ended up paying for
Oh,
at the
wow. Yeah, okay. Well,
so
that makes sense.
and I mean when I was there were multiple. So I guess they usually set up in bigger cities and stuff like that. But
Yeah, it's got to be a
yeah,
numbers game at that point.
yeah,
All right, veterinary emergency rooms. You're doing the Lord's work,
yeah.
and we're paying you for it. Good,
Oh,
good job.
when I was in Albania though, I didn't drive because they drive crazy there, but I did ride a bike.
Mm.
And to get my cats to the vet, I would put them in a carrier and put it on my back, and I would bike across town
On your
with a
back?
cat yowling on my back.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. What kind of carrier? Was it like a special backpack, or are we talking like a kennel?
No, it was actually one of those, the soft kind with the mesh, but I could get it looked like a tote, but I could get it where my cat would have to sit upright.
That
But
is the most Albanian thing I've ever heard.
well, I mean, yeah, Albania is the type of place that you'd see, three people riding on a bicycle and the baby holding the baby. So
And a
at
cat.
least during that time, I think they've wanted to become a part of the EU, and so I think they've really put a lot more restrictions on different things. So
Multiple bike riders.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, your life with cats is as diverse as your life on Earth. I like that a lot. Now, I love this. I feel like this question is already answered. You've talked about, you did the 10-day fast. You did you're eating the Albanian food, which I'm sure is free of all of the gunk that we have here in America. You're riding your bike everywhere. I mean, that sounds like the life. You must have been feeling nice and right that whole time.
It was. And then I came back to the States and I felt like I was back in college and gained the freshman 15. So it's been hard in the States to keep up as healthy a lifestyle.
Yeah. Do you feel
Because
it?
in Oklahoma, you pretty much have to drive to get anywhere.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
not, in Albania, I purposely was walking or riding a bike. So
Yeah, and Oklahoma, I mean, well, at least the perception over here on the West Coast is that it's pretty much all comfort food over there.
there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to just get something quick. But I mean, there is a trend towards healthier eating. So there's options. So
Okay, good. Good, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, are you joyful?
I am very joyful. Yes.
Good. It sounds like it. This has been such a pleasure. One more time. I'm so glad that we finally got to connect here. Again, we started kind of on time, which I'm very proud of.
It's been good. Yeah.
You bet. Is there any last words you'd like to leave everybody with before we go our separate ways here?
Just, I guess I'll go back to the seasons theme. Just learn to rejoice in whatever place God has you in. And it'll be amazing what he'll show you in the midst of it.
Amen, sister. And those roots grow in the winter.
Exactly.
I like that. I'm going to remember that. Miss Gretchen, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
You bet. You have a wonderful night, and we will talk again.
All right. Thanks.
Well, there you have it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. That certainly got my wanderlust going. And you know what? Going out serving the Lord while wandering the earth, hey, that's a great way to do it. I'll tell you what. Well, like I mentioned in the episode, I felt like I got a very interesting church history lesson and Eastern Europe history lesson, all sorts of good stuff. She's a wonderful teacher. Kind of made me feel like I needed to go back to school for something. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And make sure to head over to the Facebook group, the Joyspiracy Theory. Check us out there. Actually, there's probably going to be some revamping of that Facebook page and some new fun stuff going on over there. So if you want to experience the Joyspiracy Theory Facebook 2.0, you can go ahead and head over to facebook.com/The Joyspiracy Theory, or just search it there in the search box. Other than that, we still got the Patreon available. Putting out some episodes here real soon of Ask Baz. That's where listeners and Facebook people and Patreon supporters alike can send me questions about life or about faith or about me personally, which I almost never give a satisfactory answer for, but it's fun. It's a fun time. And anyways, I invite everybody. You can go to patreon.com/The Joyspiracy Theory and sign up to support and get some cool bonuses over there as well. We do have a goal on that Patreon, and we have come close to the goal in the past, but we've never made it. But if we hit that goal, it's my commitment to have these suckers coming out every single week. So if you wish that these came out more often, a good way to tell me that is if you go to the Patreon and let me know. Other than that, hey, head on over to iTunes. I know there's people out there who have not done this. Super important. Go to iTunes or whatever podcasting app you listen to this on. Leave a rating and a review. 5 stars is awesome. 1 star is bad. And a review is just words saying, hey, this is awesome. Or, hey, this is bad. Okay. I'm feeling weird on this one. Okay. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to come back next time. But, if you're feeling awesome, stay that way. How about that? Start the plane.
Hey Basil, my name is Carolina and I'm recording this from the island of Puerto Rico. So, hola, saludos desde Puerto Rico. I really love Canary Cry radio and Canary Cry Newstalk. I'm a huge fan. And I wasn't giving the Joyspiracy Theory a chance, but I got to listen to some episodes and I really liked it. And I went to YouTube and I saw your videos with Monty. I know there's only about 2 of those, and they're really fun. I think you should totally do more. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate what you're doing, because it's really edifying for people to hear other Christians, their walk through, and how they stay strong and find some joy in this very these dark times that we're living in. So I just wanted to congratulate you on your ministry. It's really inspiring, and I know there are some moments that things can get tough, but I just wanted to let you know that a lot of people benefit from what you do with this ministry in Kinecry. So keep it up. God bless, brother.